Who are the biggest winners and losers from week 11 of the NFL season? All that and more this episode of the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Here are your hosts, Marcus Mosher and Kate Magdziuk.
Today's episode of Locked On Dynasty is presented by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. Pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their Prize Picks projections, you can win up to 10 times your money on your entry. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. That's prizepicks.com, promo code Locked On. Welcome into the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, everybody. I am Kate Magdziuk. You could follow me at FFBallBlast on Twitter. And as always, I'm joined by my fantastic co-host, Marcus Mosher. Give him a follow at Marcus_Mosher. We are putting out all of these shows on YouTube. So go check us out over on YouTube, Locked On Dynasty, and hit that subscribe wherever you're listening, and help others find the show. We so appreciate you. We are almost done with week 11, Marcus. Time is flying. We've got one game left on the schedule, 49ers versus Cardinals. It's going to be a good one. We've got a little, it's a nice international matchup. We're going to have some fun, but before we dive into that one, let's take a look back at all the wondrous things that happened in week 11.
Yeah, well, let's start with the winners, Kate. And I promise this is going to be the last time we talk about the Kansas City Chiefs backfield, because I feel like we do this every single week. But one of my big winners, again, Isiah Pacheco, right? 15 carries, 107 yards. Didn't get in the end zone in this game, but he looked really good. And this is the second week in a row that he's dominating the touches. Jerick McKinnon had 6 carries for 24 yards. Clyde Edwards-Helaire had 2 carries for 9 yards. I don't know if you saw the news this morning, but it's a high ankle sprain for Clyde. It sounds, Andy Reid said he's a tough kid, but it doesn't look very good. We talked about this last week about how does the draft capital concern us about Pacheco? And I think the answer is no. He's the first running back for the Chiefs in, forever to run for 100 yards. I just kind of think this is his backfield moving forward.
Yeah, I think the injury to Clyde Edwards-Helaire really just kind of puts the nail in that coffin.
Yeah.
The fact that, there's really no more questions about who is going to be the guy, because there can't be, right? Like it's either Pacheco or it is McKinnon at this point. McKinnon's looked really good in that third down receiving role, but Pacheco's the 1-2 guy moving forward, and I think he's a start rest of season.
Yeah, I think at the very worst he's like a flex play for you, right? I think there's a chance that you could make him an RB2 kind of going forward, especially if they start to give him a little bit more work in the passing game. That's one of the things that is at least a little bit concerning about him, is the lack of use there, but we really like Isiah Pacheco going forward.
Yeah, I don't know even if the question mark is, can he fill that role? I'm not 100% sure if he can fill that role, but the mere presence of Jerick McKinnon, who's so solidified his role as the receiving back, that definitely precludes him from getting more work in that area.
Who's the winner that you had from week 11?
I want to talk about Josh Palmer, who is just absolutely crushing it. He's been really, really something special in his role without and his limited opportunities, right? Without Mike Williams, without Keenan Allen. Like, this has been a time where he's really got to kind of test himself as a wide receiver one. He's played 90% of offensive snaps in 5 games this year, and he's had 99 or more receiving yards or a touchdown in 4 out of those 5 games. Like, Josh Palmer is showing the ability to kind of step up and step into that wide receiver one role for this team. He's been a fairly reliable target for Justin Herbert, and I think I wasn't sure what to expect out of Josh Palmer if he could step into that role with defenses focusing a bit more on him in coverage, but it seems like he can withstand it. Former third round pick, like he's getting the job done, and I
Yes.
like what he brings to the table.
He had a huge game in this one. I believe it was 8 catches, 106 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He could have even had another touchdown in this game. He kind of got hurt in the end zone. The ball was just slightly overthrown, but building off a strong rookie season, you mentioned the draft capital, the efficiency is going up. He's scoring touchdowns. What's not to like? I don't think he has the ceiling to be a number one receiver, and even a number two might be a little bit too much in fantasy, but he is a strong wide receiver 3 every single week. Maybe
And you look
even
at the opportunity, Marcus. Keenan Allen, he's 30 years old. We've already seen him
yes,
not be fully healthy. Mike Williams, for as high as his upside is, like a totally different build than Josh Palmer is, like in terms of what he brings to the table. But 28 years old, also hasn't been consistently healthy. Like if Josh Palmer can stay healthy, there's a very real chance that he can solidify himself as a staple in this offense and a consistent point when there's some injury struggles around him.
Kate, I have like 4 or 5 other players that I think were big winners from Sunday that I just want your quick thoughts and reactions to. But before we do that, we want to tell you about Total Wine and More. This holiday season, find what you love at Total Wine and More. With so many great bottles to choose from, it's easy to find a new favorite Cabernet or Chardonnay. What's your favorite wine? Do you have a favorite type?
I'm more of a white, dry,
Really?
Sauv. Yes,
I see.
like a Sauv Blanc.
Yeah. I like the sweet white wines. I know. It's
Yeah.
okay. Uh, Listen, we don't judge what people drink on this show. Uh, Again, you can find the perfect gift for everyone on your list with some help from a friendly guide, and all with the confidence of knowing that you found something special for the absolute lowest price. Love what you find only at Total Wine and More. Curbside pickup available and delivery available as well in most areas. Visit totalwine.com to learn more. Drink responsibly, be 21. We also want to tell you about Turo. Turo is the world's largest car sharing marketplace. With Turo, you can book any car that you want, wherever you want it, from a community of local hosts. Browse a huge selection of vehicles for just about any occasion or budget across the US, UK, Canada, and coming soon to Australia. Book a spacious SUV or minivan for a family road trip. Get a classic or luxury car for a special event, birthday or holiday. Find affordable economy cars if you're on a budget and just need to get from A to B, or if you want to test drive that new electric vehicle that you've had your eye on for a while. Many Turo hosts can even deliver the car right to you. Every trip is backed by liability insurance. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply. Forget boring rental cars and find your drive at Turo.com. All right, Kate, let's run through some huge winners from week 11. You just gave me your kind of gut initial reaction. Jamal Williams, 17 carries for 64 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yowza. Like yowza. I love Jamal Williams. I'm all in. Jamal Williams is just kind of fulfilling this power back role even when DeAndre Swift was healthy. This team was utilizing
Yep.
him around the goal line, and now we see his upside. DeAndre Swift not going to be healthy rest of season, Marcus. I think we have ourselves at least an RB2 rest of season.
I agree. In fact, he might even be a little bit better than that. He's going to lead the NFL in rushing touchdowns this year, which is absolutely insane. Next one, Devontae Adams, 7 catches for 141 yards and 2 touchdowns on PFF's #1 cornerback. I just saw a ranking by a guy named Marcus_Mosher, who ranked him as the best cornerback in the league, and Adams absolutely torched him. Kate, Devontae Adams this year on pace for nearly 1,600 yards and 17 touchdowns with the Raiders.
And they're still barely doing anything in the win-loss column. That's impressive, Marcus. That is impressive. But
can you imagine that offense without Devontae Adams?
Could you imagine that offense without Derek Carr?
Yeah,
I mean, whew, But you know what? Regardless, Devontae Adams to the moon.
Yes.
Now, curious question: where are you ranking him in terms of dynasty wide receivers? Because he's fallen quite a bit, and I think that's presumably just due to age. Um,
It has to
just
be,
about
right?
to turn 30. Wide receiver 16 in the most recent batch of dynasty ADP, behind Michael Pittman,
No, get out of
behind
here.
DK Metcalf.
Okay, I understand that one.
Okay, behind Drake London.
That really depends on how competitive you think you are right now, right? Because production wise, that's just not even going to be close this year. In fact, I don't even think next year it's going to be all that close either. But I think the takeaway is Devontae Adams, like, still has a chance every week to be the wide receiver one. And I don't see that changing. Like, he's absolutely getting fed. He's still scoring touchdowns. I know there was a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people thought he was just a product of Aaron Rodgers. That couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah, he's got standalone value.
Yep.
And in terms of win now, if you're in win now mode, Devontae Adams might just be the best buy for your team. If we're valuing him at wide receiver 16 due to age, because we know that production is going to be at wide receiver one level, I think, at least for the next 2 seasons. And sure, give me that all day.
Next one, Samaje Perine. Sorry, I don't mean to do this to you coming off a Steeler game, but he was pretty good on Sunday. 11 carries for 30 yards, but 4 receptions for 52 yards and 3 touchdowns. Coming into this season, Kate, he had 2 receiving touchdowns. He had 3 on Sunday. Joe Mixon left this game with a concussion. However, he was still getting work as a receiver even when Mixon was playing in this game. If Samaje Perine has to start for a week or 2 going forward, I mean, how is he not an instant start every single week?
I mean, I think he's an instant start based on workload alone. But Marcus, I will say I'm always a little bit nervous when we're putting some of that receiving stock. Like when you're overly efficient like that. 4
Yep.
catches, 4 targets, 4 receptions, 3 touchdowns. He's not going to catch 75% of his receptions and take them for touchdowns. It was a fantastic game. I'm not adjusting his value all that much, but
No.
I think his his standalone value hasn't changed, but his value as a handcuff. Like I think once we're past a Joe Mixon, uh, past his return, if you're still in a trade window, maybe that's where the Joe Mixon manager says, "All right, maybe I get my handcuff here." And go with P Ryan, who can have some especially receiving upside.
I agree. Just a really nice backup running back. Not the most explosive player in the world, but I think he's somebody, and we see this happen every year, right? We get into weeks 11, 12, 13, and running backs get hurt, and we're having to start guys like Samaje Perine. You could certainly do a lot worse than Perine. He can play in the passing game. He's not an explosive runner, but he is reliable. Kind of think he's going to be somebody that helps win some weeks over the next couple games, assuming Joe Mixon misses time. Next winner, Tony Pollard. 15 carries for 80 yards, 6 receptions for 109 yards and 2 touchdowns. Kate, in his last 3 games, he's at 463 yards and 6 touchdowns.
Absolutely ridiculous. I think what was most exciting is that we saw his production alongside production for Zeke, and
Yep.
we saw him make plays. I mean, this was a incredibly difficult rushing defense coming into this game, and didn't know what to expect from Tony Pollard, especially with the return of Zeke, but saw that production side by side. Tony Pollard's going to earn himself a very big paycheck in free agency. I want to give a couple more names real quick. Amari Cooper, wide receiver, just absolutely crushing it. Ranks 12th in receiving yards in the NFL. Has just been completely dominant on what is not the most exciting passing offense. And like, I think we have to imagine, and I don't like to say his name out loud, Shmushman Schwanson.
Yeah, that guy, Deshaun Watson. Yep.
Yeah,
I'll say it.
he's gonna be returning, and I think that ceiling for Amari Cooper is gonna be even higher. And I mean, Marcus, the most beautiful thing is that I think he's probably one of the best buys for a win now team that we can possibly imagine. In the most recent batch of Dynasty ADP, wide receiver 22,
Yeah,
and he's performing
ridiculous.
as a wide receiver 1.
And the thing is, there's some years where he doesn't necessarily perform as a wide receiver 1. It's more like wide receiver 2 numbers. But what we know from Amari is he's going to get to 1,000 yards every year, and he's going to score at least 7 or 8 touchdowns. And if he's doing it with Jacoby Brissett, I can't imagine that he's not going to do it with Deshaun Watson. I don't think all of a sudden Watson's going to come in and he's going to average 150 yards a game or anything. But what you're going to see is more of the same, which is going to lead to a lot of production. Who else do you got?
I've got one more name that I want to shout out. Well, I guess it's technically two. I want to shout out a couple of rookies. Chris Olave,
Yeah.
102 receiving yards and a touchdown. Just absolutely torched the secondary, like showed his speed. He looked fantastic. Literally had a perfect passer rating when targeted this week. Like Chris Olave just continues to show out. I think he should be very much in the conversation for offensive rookie of the year. And
Yeah.
I think these running backs, like as we've seen Dameon Pierce continue to struggle, and he's getting some tough matchups. So I don't want to take away from what I love about Dameon Pierce, but I think Chris Olave very much in the mix for that. And let's talk about George Pickens, who this has been a desolate offense with the Pittsburgh Steelers, but he's been kind of that one shining moment, right? Like he's a wide receiver 20 in the most recent batch of Dynasty ADP, 21 years old. I still think there's a ceiling left to discover. He's still he missed a lot of time after that torn ACL, then never got the opportunity to bounce back. But George Pickens, he's probably in for suspension, I'm gonna guess, in the week to come, perhaps.
Yeah,
but
we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see. But that's not for sure. The thing is, Kate, he had, was it 4 for 83 in this game and a touchdown? I mean, it could have been even bigger. He had a play at the end of the game where Kenny Pickett threw just a dime to him down the sideline and went right through his hands. It would have been a walk-in touchdown. He also had another play earlier in this game where he was wide open in the end zone and the ball just didn't get to him. Now, that play would have gotten called back because of it a holding. But what you're seeing is the Steelers are targeting him down the field and they're giving him opportunities. That should be a great sign moving forward that he's going to get chances to make big plays.
Yeah, and I think looking at the catches he makes, I mean, he's not just making these easy catches, Marcus. Like he's making very difficult, these very concentrated catches, which I think it looks like, watching him play, it looks like you're watching a more seasoned wide receiver. The fact that he's a rookie making these plays always has my jaw on the ground.
Yep, absolutely. All right, it's time to be a little bit negative on this podcast. We were overwhelmingly positive in the first 19 minutes of the show, but now we need to do some negatives from week 11. But before we do that, I want to tell you about Prize Picks. How does Prize Picks work? All you have to do is pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their Prize Pick projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. No competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available. Prize Picks offers projections on just about any sport that you watch. This includes NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, PGA, college football, men's college basketball, women's college basketball, soccer, WNBA, esports, NASCAR, tennis, MMA, boxing, disc golf, Euro basketball, cricket, and more. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It is that easy. They are currently operational in over 30 states and in Canada. Download the Prize Pick app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. If you deposit $100, Prize Picks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, Prize Picks will give you $50. Don't forget to enter promo code Locked On at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. All right, Kate. We actually have not talked together about the biggest losers from Week 11, but I got a feeling that you and I have the same one. So let's say it at the same time. Let's see if we can do
Oh,
it. Ready?
wait. I'm nervous. Oh my gosh.
No, yeah.
Okay.
Right. 3, 2, 1.
DeAndre
Zach Wilson.
Swift. Ah, okay.
We're different. Okay, you go ahead and go first.
Actually, no. So I also had Zach Wilson on my
Okay.
list. DeAndre Swift. It's less because I'm still buying DeAndre Swift.
Okay.
I am not buying Zach Wilson.
Swift got in the end zone in this game. He can't be that big of a loser, right?
He's more like he's not. I don't want to call him a loser. That's me.
I think it
Zach
has more to
Wilson.
do
I'll
with the
call a loser.
It has more to do with the situation. Like Jamal Williams is just good, right? And we were hoping that this would be a DeAndre Swift-led backfield. It's just not going to be, right?
Also health, like that's yeah. Well, let's just knock DeAndre Swift out of the game here first. I feel like this team should shut him down. He came out, he said, like, I am not 100%. Sounds like, off-season surgery, not out of the question. He's had shoulder issues in the past, not played more than 13 games in a season this far. And if they're limiting his touches to this degree, like he was off the injury report, Marcus, but I still think that this is a chronic shoulder injury that he's going to be managing rest of season. He's never exceeded 213 touches in a season. Like, I'm buying him because I think the upside is so huge. In games where he's had 12 or more carries, Marcus, he's averaging 21 PPR points per game.
Yep.
12 carries. That is the threshold here. And that is a low threshold. Like, when he gets work, he's absolutely dominant. And that's why I'm not willing to write him off just yet. But we have got to start being concerned about his health. And I think, if this team wants to continue to have him available, they might start to limit more of those touches and keep Jamal Williams involved. And it
makes sense. It makes sense not from just a fantasy perspective, but also like from a team building perspective. Like Jamal Williams is just a good player, and he's really good near the end zone. So give him some of those touches that, those carries sometimes have a lot of contact in them, right? They're very physical touches. Keep Swift. I don't know. What do you think is the right amount of touches for Swift? 12 to 14 once he's healthy?
My number was 15. And I feel like that feels like maybe, 12 carries, 3 receptions. Like, obviously you can never micromanage a team like that, or a player like that to that degree. But
I think that's the range, right? Somewhere between like 12 and 16 touches a game, and probably like 10 carries, 4 receptions, something like that. And
that's fair.
And it's tough because we were hoping that Swift would be like the next Christian McCaffrey, that get 22 touches a game, and just seems like it's not going to happen. Zach Wilson, Kate, you had him as a loser. Thoughts?
Yikes! I completed just nine pass attempts. Marcus, 1.7 yards per pass attempt. That is just I average in my sleep 1.7 yards per pass attempt. But I mean, just like one trip to the red zone, like this team has everything that they need on defense. I truly believe that. Like they have, I think, one of the best cornerback duos in the league between DJ Reed and their very, very, very hot rookie, Sauce Gardner. Like, I think that they have all of those pieces there. But as long as Zach Wilson is in the mix, I mean, 77 passing yards, Marcus.
Well, and if you look at, if you add in the sacks as well, 44 net passing yards for the Jets on 26 dropbacks.
That's #bad. Marcus, I think maybe what's even more concerning, like this isn't like a one-off game, right? Like this isn't, no. We've seen far, far, far more negative with Zach Wilson. Even as one game where he finally exceeded 300 passing yards this year, still came with a 48% completion percentage, 2 touchdowns. You see 355 passing yards in week 8 and 2 touchdowns. You're like, oh, okay. And then you're like, oh, like 3 interceptions. Like this is, he's not good. He's not making good decisions. He's not seeing open receivers. Like Denzel Mims should have had a very easy walk-in touchdown, just totally missed. I genuinely believe that this is a playoff team if they make the move to Joe Flacco, which is like the most insane thing I've ever said in my life. But the most concerning part, Marcus, is that Zach Wilson has officially lost the locker room. Like there is no turning back. We've already seen the frustration from Elijah Moore. Well, guess what? Garrett Wilson comes out after week 11 and just opens up a can of whoop ass on this offense. And there's no going back from that. You don't win back these receivers after this kind of performance, period.
Yep. I agree. I think that's the biggest thing here, right? Is if Zach Wilson was struggling and he owned it and said, "Hey, I just need to play better." The defense was awesome, and the teammates were like really rallying behind him.
No,
it's different, right?
I think not.
I think we're talking about him today in the play, but we're not talking about him being benched next week, right? I'm in total agreement with you. Like, I am somebody that believes that the most important thing a team needs to do with a franchise quarterback is develop him. It's even more important than winning and losing, right? Because if you can develop a quarterback earlier in their career, it's going to set you up to win long term. It's just clear that Zach Wilson isn't it. Okay. Like you look at his stats, we've got 20 games now, and he's got a completion percentage of 55, a passer rating of 72. The yards per attempt are the worst in the league. 20 games is not a small sample size, and he's not getting better. And I think there's a legitimate chance he's just not on this roster next year, and he's not a starting quarterback. And for people that took him high in super flex leagues or traded picks for him and assets, sorry, but it's just not going to happen. It's not.
At this point, I will literally sell him. Like, say you're in a super flex league and somebody's just in a rough spot, Marcus, like, sure, I'll go around and I'll see if there's somebody in need of QB2, QB3, who will buy Zach Wilson for a 4th round pick. Like, you need to offload him for anything that you can get.
It's taking up a bench spot. I mean,
he's got a lot of, like, it's not a question of talent. He's got 2 of like my favorite wide receivers in the NFL. I love Elijah Moore. I love Garrett Wilson. I think they like Garrett Wilson, no knock to Chris Olave, but I said he was my pick for the most pro-ready wide receiver in this draft class. And
it's time.
He can't figure out how to use them. It's time to move on. And I don't think the coaching is the issue either. Like, your defense is doing their part. Every single issue is being traced back to Zach Wilson, and I will readily sell him for anything that I can get.
100% agree. I think he's got to be the biggest loser of the week. That is it for today's show. Thank you for making Locked On Dynasty your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast, the biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Matt and Ryan will be back on Tuesday and Wednesday. We're off on Thanksgiving, but Kate, you and I will be back on Friday to break down the 3 games that we have on Thanksgiving. All 3 of them should be a lot of fun. Looking forward to doing that. Go follow the show on YouTube at Locked On Dynasty. Follow Kate at FF Ball Blast. I am at Marcus _Mosher. Enjoy your week, and we'll see you guys next time.